everyone, it's our second edition of the Something in the Air podcast remotely, and this time I'm doing it from home. I'm meteorologist Joe Martucci with the Press of Atlantic City, and joined with me today is a man that wears many hats despite no hat on his head right now. We're here with Chuck LaBarre, and if you're in Absecon Island, have spent a lot of time in Absecon Island, especially down beach, you'll know Chuck. Chuck is the Municipal Emergency Management Coordinator in Margate, but he's also the lieutenant for the Margate Beach Patrol, a retired Atlantic City Battalion fire chief. He also has another job in the private industry right now. So I'm going to start off with that, Chuck, which is, how did you juggle being a firefighter in Atlantic City and being a part of Margate Beach Patrol at the same time? And I think you did that for about 15 years. And then for maybe within 5 of those years, you were the operations manager for the skate zone?
We're jumping around a little bit, but so when I decided to move to Margate, I built my house in 98 and 99, and my wife was going through law school, and I finished some work working for the union for Atlantic City Firefighters Local 198. I was president for 2.5 terms and was kind of finishing up in that, moving in, taking care of things personally. And then I ended up in Margate, and I had a good friend that was the chief of the beach patrol at the time. And I was spending a lot of time on the beach, just surfing, just kind of relaxing after I had just gotten married and built my house. And he's like, would you be interested in coming back to the beach patrol? We were lifeguards together from 1980 to 87. And he said he had a young beach patrol. He's looking for some experienced people. And it kind of fell in my lap. My wife gave me the thumbs up, and I never looked back. 1 year turned into going into my 19th season.
Gee, so the wife approval is always good, right?
Yes, that's the first check box to check
That's
off.
the first checkbox. Okay. So just to tell people a little bit about like your early upbringing, where you were born, where you were raised, what was life like for you when you were young?
Briefly, so I was born and raised in Atlantic City. My parents were born and raised in Atlantic City. I became really interested in the beach patrol. I spent as long as I can remember, grew up on Chelsea Avenue, Montpelier Avenue Beach in Atlantic City. My dad was an Atlantic City lifeguard. So when we would go down in the summer, I was just like in awe of the lifeguards. They were bigger than life to me when I was a little kid. And then that turned into working for the lifeguards as a mascot at this young age. And I was doing everything from helping bring down the equipment and basically getting their lunches and breakfasts, coffee, stuff like that. And then when I was 14 or 15, took the test, became a lifeguard from 1980 to 87. And then the beach patrol kind of had a natural progression through public safety to the fire department or the police department. I chose the fire department, and I moved through the ranks in Atlantic City Fire Department. I'm an avid surfer and ice hockey player like yourself. And
we're going to talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah, and I always had a big interest in weather through surfing, through keeping an eye on storms. I was always had a bit of a novel fascination when hurricanes were approaching. And back then, I remember the first hurricane that was approaching our Jersey coast was Hurricane Bell. And it had a big impact on me as far as my interests. And I always kept a good eye on the weather for my job on the fire department, and it kind of just rolled naturally with public safety.
Yeah, so it sounds like you had an appreciation of the weather, and I'm kind of seeing some similarities too, because, most meteorologists, Chuck, I would say if you ask 7 out of 10 of them, they would tell you they've been wanting to be a meteorologist since before middle school, and like 8 out of 10 since before high school. So, do you kind of feel the same way in like the lifeguard community? Like, is that just something people fall into, or is it something where, like yourself, you're getting the breakfast, you're getting the lunch when you're young. Hopefully they gave you a little bit something, on the side.
Oh, yeah, I did pretty good.
I handled into it.
Yeah, and it was a natural progression. And like I said, I really took to it. I had washed dishes for one summer up the street at a restaurant, and I swore to myself after that job I would never let myself be put in a position, not that there's anything wrong with that, it's just that I wanted to be outside working and just being on the beach and just being in that environment. And I just really enjoyed, there was a lot of self-satisfaction with just helping people on a daily basis, and you were getting paid for it. So it was everything from just, helping a mom find a lost kid on the beach to, actually making a lot of big rescues in Atlantic City, because the people that attended the beach or just aren't familiar with the ocean, like you do find down beach sometimes. You have people that have summer homes, and over the years, their kids, the children that grow up down beach in the summertime,
Yeah.
they start to acclimate themselves and can handle themselves in the ocean. So it was definitely a natural progression right into the fire department.
Yeah. So I'm going to kind of ask like an all-encompassing question, but it's like, why did you choose public service for a large portion, of your working life? I mean, obviously, you started out in lifeguarding, but, I'm guessing you didn't have to, go into fire or police. You could have, left that public sphere. So like, what made you want to stay in it?
Well, I just looked at, the scheduling and the excitement, and I had a lot of, I grew up in the Chelsea neighborhood of Atlantic City, and back then growing up, I had a lot of older guys that I looked up to, not only in sports, who coached us, that were friends with families, that it was a close-knit neighborhood. And there was a couple large families that had older guys that were either on the police and fire. And I really gravitated to the guys who were on the fire department. Once I found out, the scheduling and what it entailed, it just felt like, and I wasn't the only one. I had at least 20 guys that I grew up with that we all got on together. And
That's
it was
cool.
just really, really cool situation.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, I'm just like, as a meteorologist, like you didn't really know anybody that was a meteorologist, like in high school, I knew no one. So really when I went to, Rutgers was like, oh my God, there's all these people that are like me. But it seems like, for you kind of had like that tight knit group from, for a long time. And I know you're buddies with a decent amount of them now still, right?
Yeah. And it was just an awesome experience. And we moved through the fire department together. We all learned together from guys that we grew up with. And I really gravitated towards team sports. We started with being on the fire department. I had a lot of friends that were police officers, and we started Atlantic City Guns and Hoses hockey team. And that went, it's still kind of going. I don't play for them now, but
because you're too good.
That and old. But we just had an awesome experience. We played on the boardwalk rink right across from Boardwalk Hall. We played. We got friendly with a lot of boardwalk bullies. I'm still friends with a couple guys that actually went into public safety themselves that stayed in the area.
Yeah.
So it was just the team camaraderie. That's a lot of it in the fire department. It's the biggest thing I miss since I've retired, is that part of it.
Yeah. Let's talk about, let's shift on over to OEM, since that's, what the main thing you're doing for Margate now. And I always like to ask this question to OEM managers, emergency management managers, which is like, why does emergency management matter to the average citizen of Margate, or even South Jersey as a whole? Like, why should they care?
Well, there's a component in public safety that has to have a liaison from each municipality with the county Office of Emergency Management. And it's basically to have a line of communication on an ongoing basis. And the person that is going to represent that municipality for the emergency management position needs to have a strong background in public safety, and just how the concept works, and how communications work, and pre-planning, and all the things that are the priorities. And you have to know how to adjust to certain situations in a bind, or something like this current situation with the COVID-19.
Yeah.
We have no experience in this, and we're all kind of learning, and we're all kind of relying on each other, but it's disseminating information, getting it out to the public the best we can, and just understanding what the priorities are, and making sure that we're covering all those bases as best we can.
Yeah, Chuck, and I got to tell you, so you started last year, right? What month did you start?
I started August 15th. I was appointed 2019.
Gotcha. So, it's mid-April now. Actually, it's your anniversary. What is it? Your 8-month anniversary as we're recording this on the 15th?
I didn't even realize that.
So, yeah, happy anniversary. But it's kind of been baptism by fire for you. COVID-19, of course, which is, brought a lot of pain to people. But even this week, we had really nasty winds on the 13th of April. Even last week, we had more nasty winds, severe thunderstorms. So it's kind of been a little bit of baptism by fire for you so far. So how is it compared to what you thought it would be, especially in these times?
Well, I'm not going to lie. It is challenging. I like to think that I'm up to the challenge. I'm very fortunate to be in a situation with a great police chief and a great fire chief and a public safety commissioner and just Margate city officials in general. We rely on Longport and Ventnor and also the county. So as overwhelming as it can feel sometimes, it's knowing that you have people in position that are close to you that you can rely on, and no one is just pulling the rope by themselves. Everybody has to have a hand in it, and keeping an open line of communication. But this is very challenging in the sense that the citizens, the residents, people in general want information, but I don't even think sometimes they know what information they want because there's a lot of anxiety out there. Yeah. So again, you got the storms come up. We're very vulnerable this time of year, March, April, nor'easters, although this wasn't one. But thank God for guys like you that help us keep our eye on the ball and not just, we're not just focused just because this pandemic is happening. We still have to be aware of other emergency management situations, like weather is a big thing for us.
You don't have to butter me up, Chuck, but I do appreciate it. So, let me ask you, Margate, of course, like much of the shore down here, you have local population and majority are second homeowners. So like, what's the difference in messaging that you're giving to the locals in Margate and into those, who are here on the weekends or have their summer home, or even just the visitors, who rent the house, for, they're just staying here for a couple of days?
Well, it's a balancing act. I mean, there's a dynamic that has been brought up because, the governor is putting out executive orders, and that's where the baseline of all our decision-making comes from. That's the foundation of it. So if you work off those executive orders and then you still have, the people's civil liberties, and I understand that. And I understand why people would want to, I'm calling it's a bit of modern day refugees. Mm-hmm. They're fleeing certain areas that have an outbreak, and they feel like they have a safe haven in their summer home. But at the same time, and the governor pointed it out, he articulated it very well and very strongly on many occasions that, an everyday life, what's going on in the summer when all these people are down, without an emergency, the infrastructure is built to handle it. Yeah. But God forbid if we had a large outbreak in the shore communities in Atlantic County, and then the hospitals, and it would be Shore, Atlantic City Division, and Mainland Division, if they were inundated with an outbreak, you just implemented a large population that was requested by guidelines from the governor not to be in a certain area, and people are coming down. So if, say, my mom needed to go to the hospital and we go in there and she can't get a bed, and it's really that there's an issue with people that shouldn't have been here were requested not to be here in the first place, that's where a bit of the dynamic comes in play. But I understand it. You can't infringe. People pay a lot of money in taxes. They've built beautiful homes down here, and we welcome them. It's just this is a situation that is a little dicey, and there's a lot of dialogue going on, and it's challenging.
Chuck, one thing I like about you, and I like a bunch of things about you, but the one thing I like about you, specifically, is that you are getting out to the people through social media, which is just a part of our lives at this point, right? I mean, I use it all the time, but I see you on our, the Margate, New Jersey community Facebook group, posting things or sharing things. Like, how's the response been? How do you feel the response has been through there?
I think really, really well. I mean, I'm not a big IT guy. I'm not a big Facebook guy. I'm posting things through my own personal page because I being new to the position, I haven't established a Margate OEM Facebook page. Mm-hmm. So right now, I'm just trying to pump out as much information as possible. And I think a lot, it's like a wave. If I keep posting things weather-wise earlier, and when I started this position, I think people were catching on it, keeping an eye on it. And this is why I'm putting out this information, is just to kind of give you, okay, here's something you need to look at. And so when the outbreak happened, I just kept putting out information, and we're all doing it with the Margate Fire Department's really good at it, Margate Police Department. So if you throw enough information out there, and people will pick and choose what they want to read and what they want to see and what they want to digest, because it is overwhelming. And then you go with cable news. I just feel like as long as I can get as much information out as possible, and I'll let the viewers decide on what they're going to read and update, then that's the best I can do.
Yeah. Yeah. This kind of leads to my next question, which is like, what have you kind of kept the same? And besides, trying to get out on social media a little bit more, like, what are you doing differently, as the, OEM, basically the manager for OEM here?
As far as weather, or just in general?
Just in general. Yeah. Just in general.
Well, weather, I use a lot of your posts. I use New Jersey Office of Emergency Management. When they put something, it's just, sharing it back out. I use the National Weather Service out of Mount Holly. And I'll even get, I have a FEMA app, which I recommend everybody should have, because you get alerts. While we're on the subject, I do recommend people set their alert system on their smartphones. You have to go into your settings and then go to notifications. And that way you get like instant weather updates. If there was a tornado warning, or there's an Amber Alert, most people have it, but some people forget. I don't know if it comes preset that way, but you should make sure that you have those settings on. And I just, it's always staying in tune and always having a finger on the pulse of what's going on. And it's hard because it's 24/7.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, where have your roles, between OEM and lifeguarding, where have they kind of crossed? Like, where do you see, like, oh, I'm thinking of lifeguarding while I'm, talking about OEM, or vice versa? You ever had any of those moments yet? Or
Well,
what do you anticipate?
it's always weather related.
Yeah.
And it kind of evolved when I was assigned to be a liaison for Margate City when the dunes were being under construction, because during the summer season. So I was asked if I would be the liaison for Margate and attend these weekly meetings between the Army Corps of Engineers, all the other OEMs, police chiefs, and all in Down Beach while they were doing the construction during the season, because things were changing and there was all these issues coming up. So once I fulfilled that role, and then we got hit with that big rain, and all that water sat behind the dune, between the bulkhead and the dune. And I was giving these warnings, just like a lot of the local people knew what was going to happen if we got a lot of rain. And all of a sudden I was standing on top of a dune with one of the engineers from the Army Corps of Engineers asking me, what do you think we should do? And I was like, wow, this guy has way more education than I do, but I have a lot of experience just in the local area.
Yeah.
And we formulated a plan, and we had to just, and that's a lot of it with emergency management, public safety, is you have to be able to immediately formulate a plan and listen to other people. Because one of my lines or things that I always go by, that I'm not the smartest man in the room. And once you think you're the smartest person in the room, you're not going to rely on other people's information. And I think it's, if you have to be the one to make the decision, you have to take everybody else's opinions and listen to what they have to say, and you pick and choose and formulate a plan together.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, especially in OEM, when there's, you're dealing with it's a multifaceted position in the sense that you're dealing with, different events, whether it is weather or not, or you're dealing with different departments. You need to absorb the information. You need to be a sponge, I feel like, a lot of times with these OEM jobs. Kind of pushing a little bit further into lifeguarding here. Give us your elevator pitch of Margate Beach Patrol.
Well, like I said, when I was on Atlantic City Beach Patrol, to me, that was top notch. I had a great experience and, never thought I would work on another beach patrol. But when I was asked to join Margate, it was just going to be one summer. And that one summer, like I said, I'm in 19 years. And what an incredible experience. I feel like we have the best beach patrol around. Not only just from the race perspective, and listen, I'm bragging about my beach patrol just like any other officer would brag about their own. You
have the platform to brag about your beach patrol. You're fine.
Right, and don't forget, we got the Oval girls.
That is correct.
Mutual friendship.
Yes, that's right. The Ovals used to work for us here at the press. Amanda Oval still does a little freelancing for us, but they are they the queens of South Jersey Beach Patrol when it comes to lifeguard races?
I put them at the top, especially with the women's racing and just listen, I can't say enough about all my lifeguards. Yeah. I think we have a great beach patrol from our rookies all the way up to our chief. We have a great group of officers, and that's what makes it helps it function the way it does. And we're we're really involved in the day-to-day operations at each individual beach. Every lieutenant knows the little idiosyncrasies of each little beach has it. Some beaches have a hole, some beaches have a pipe that creates, different rip currents. The beach is always changing. So, casually or informally, we're always talking about how the topography is changing and the challenges that we're going to, be encountering each day. And, a perfect example was last 4th of July. We had a different rip current going on. We had new pipes on the beach. And I was on boat rescues with my chief, Craig Smallwood. We went on boat rescues and,
right.
It filters down through the lifeguards when they see the upper echelon and the administrators going and getting in the boat and doing rescues. It just makes everybody else want to work harder because you got to lead by example.
Right. Yeah. You took the words out of my mouth. I was going to say lead by example right there. Chuck, we got 1 more minute left. So I want to ask you 2 quick questions. My first one is, if there's one website that the people of Margate need to know about when it comes to OEM, what is that?
Right now it would be New Jersey Office of Emergency Management. I get my information, but as soon as I have time, when things calm down from this pandemic, I plan on having my own Office of Emergency Management for Margate City webpage and Facebook page.
Gotcha. And last one, we're going to go with a hockey question. What's your best hockey play ever? Your favorite moment?
Well, I tell you this. I had a 6-goal game. I had a double hat trick, Guns and Hoses, against Washington, D.C. Police down in D.C. We won 10-3, and I had 6 goals that night. But again, I don't think the goalie could have stopped the beach ball that night. So,
I'm going to imagine that DC police just have a wider pool to pull from, considering how big they are. So for you guys to smoke them and have 2 hat tricks, I know what you're saying about the goalie, but still, I kudos to you guys. That's all I'll say. Kudos to you.
Yeah, and listen, we've been very fortunate. We had a lot of successful seasons, and fundraising was a big part of it. But then, we had a group of guys like Stefan Rivardi and Walterson. That helped out a lot, having former ECHL players on our team too.
All right, cool. Well, Chuck, I want to try to do something more with Guns and Hoses. We're going to see if we can do something with that, and maybe not this year, but next year for sure. I did want to talk to you about that. But thanks for coming on. We appreciate it. Chuck LaBarre, everybody, Municipal Emergency Management Coordinator for Margate, Lieutenant for the Margate Beach Patrol, retired AC Battalion Chief, former Atlantic City Beach Patrol as well. Thanks for being on. We appreciate it, Chuck.
Joe, thank you so much. I really enjoyed it. Anytime, and your listeners, they have a great resource in you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And really has a lot to do with the relationships I have with OEM. So, thanks so much, Chuck. And for everybody listening, this is Something in the Air by the Press of Atlantic City. We will be back with you at the beginning of May for our April monthly weather roundup. We're going to have a lot to talk about. Till then, take care, everybody, and